Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to talk about 5 god tier champions that had everything to be there, but they came up short because they got destroyed by a simple thing such as numbers. The numbers are not good enough, the abilities are, the ideas are, the utility is, but all of these 5 champions either lack the damage, either lack the percentage to trigger their abilities, so on and so forth. And you can make a case for pretty much every single champion in the game. If you increased his damage or whatever like 10 times, then there would be a god tier champion. No, I'm talking about the champions where upon reading their ability description, they have pretty much everything there. That is, like, for instance, when you look at data mined information, when you go through the abilities, they seem that they could be the next big thing, that the utility is going to be there, that everything's going to be there, but it just doesn't quite come all together, and these champions get left behind and moved on. First, I think definitely an honorable mention that really emphasizes a difference here would be Black Widow. Where is Black Widow? 4-star Black Widow. This is gonna explain the point as good as I possibly can. You see, the difference from you reduce the opponent's defensive ability accuracy by 100% to you reduce it by 75% or something like that is huge. Because when you use Black Widow, if you use her against a champion like Medusa or I don't know, Darkhawk, that have 100% chance to auto block or a huge chance to auto block, then it's a difference of whether you can safely attack them and be confident in the fact that those abilities won't trigger, to the fact that they might trigger not as often, but you still can't take the chance. Because, for instance, in Alliance War, if you get parried by a mini-boss and then comboed into, you are likely dead. So, in this case, Black Widow got brought down from god tier level to kind of meh, whatever, maybe occasionally useful. Obviously 12.0 took away quite a lot of her damage as well, that made her a lot worse. And this is a perfect example of a champion who used to have better numbers, who used to have better damage, and was extremely dominant. Now, if Black Widow in today's game would get restored with higher damage, with 100% ability accuracy reduction, she would once again be a top kind of tier candidate champion. She might not be the best of the best, but she would definitely have a lot more use in the game. So this is the idea behind this video. These are going to be the champions that could have been, but ultimately got destroyed by Kabam, by whoever made their ability numbers. And so moving on, very recent champion, one of the more recent Mystic champions, and I think it's a quite obvious pick here for most, and that quite simply is going to be, where is that dude? Let's go with 6-star, we have 6-star 2. Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw, everybody was hyped, he looked good, he looked promising. Even upon reading his abilities, definitely seemed that there could be something in there. Now, before we go further in the video, yes, there will be other champions such as Man-Thing is disappointing by numbers, and whoever, there are many, but these are going to be the most kind of extreme examples of champions that have everything to get them to the top, but they're missing something. And this is my list, so if you don't agree, then you can just keep rolling. But yeah. So Ebony Maw, he has power control, he has ability to phase, he has these persistent charges where you can ramp him up. And now I think if they had made like slight adjustments, increased his damage output, somehow increased the duration of his falter, ideally based on persistent charges. So basically once you ramp him up, your falter lasts a really long time and he continuously can phase. And then you can play him like a ghost type of situation. Whenever opponent is faltered, you can just get easy openings. There was so much to be really great. Unfortunately, nearly every number about this champion sucks. Damage is... I can't even explain where he ranks in damage wise. Like, I'm quite sure it's below Groot. It's kind of like he is comparing his damage to champions several ranks below, which is pathetic. This champion got absolutely demolished and destroyed by numbers, by Kabam's butchering department, as I might refer to them later in the video. Because yeah, he doesn't hit hard, the degen's not impressive, the length of the falter isn't impressive, power gain could be better of his heavy attack, that would help him a lot too. And yeah, all in all, he came out as garbage, even though he had all the abilities to be fantastic. One of the bigger flops recently, for sure. And moving on, I think, now this again is not a list of best or worst champions, it's just a list of what could have been, kind of. And it's Invisible Woman. Now, I do like Invisible Woman right now. I do like the way she plays, that invisibility mechanic when she can protect herself. But just think about Invisible Woman if instead of having to get 50 vulnerability debuffs, you would get the same effect with 5 or 10. She would be a tank, she would be a wrecking house, she would be so popular. Her mechanics are interesting, her abilities are quirky, she's cool to play, she has a lot of really good redeeming qualities, she can be run extremely well with suicides and heal with them. And if she would not have the count of 50 vulnerabilities, but imagine if each dex would count as basically 5 or 10 of these. If you only have to dex 5-10 times to unlock the max damage, that crazy amount of damage, she would be so crazy good. She would be insane damage powerhouse, and she would be still fun to use. I mean, she's fun to use right now, it's just you have that slight feeling of annoyment, of disappointment, of the idea of what could have been. And yeah, I definitely would like Invisible Woman up for balancing sometime in near future, and just cut down the number of invisibilities needed to 10. 10 I think would be perfect, 5 would be OP. And yeah, then she would, in my opinion, would definitely deserving of a god tier champion status. But now let's visit some older champions, and with that we're gonna move on to Punisher 2099. Now, many people don't even know what he really does, and the reason why they don't know what he does is because he punches like a 7-year-old schoolgirl, and that is an unfortunate fact. He has a good amount of utility. It could be increased if his battery recharging stuff would work better, if you would be able to maintain your charges easier. And then at the same time, he has a lot going for him. He has armor break, he can prevent evades. Whenever opponent would be pushed to 3 bars of power, he automatically drains some power and power locks them. Whenever opponent would regen, he automatically heal and locks them. If you would wrap that in slightly more effective package, increase the damage, increase those ability stats to longer durations, to bigger kind of impact, because there's everything there for a champion to be awesome utility powerhouse. Going against regen champions, perfect. Going against power gain champions, perfect. They never get level 3, so on and so forth. And he could have been something. His abilities definitely looked intriguing, albeit a bit complicated, but if the numbers would be better, he would just simply wreck stuff there. Cool looking champion, cool looking specials. Also 100% chance to stand on heavies and put on a stun loop. If you could have higher battery numbers, that would be such a cool thing to do. And yeah, unfortunately it's all just kind of not worth it. There are always better options, there are always harder hitting options, there are always more reliable options, there are easier champions to use. And because of the lackluster numbers, he is pretty much ranked in one of those champions that's kind of nifty, crafty, but not really worth it. And a huge kind of letdown, especially the person who designed the abilities, the base idea around the champion, definitely did a great job. And it's always really sad to see a great potential wasted, and this champion is nothing but a potential wasted. And moving on to spot number 2, which I believe has pretty much all the attributes of a would-be god, pretty much, and that champion is the Hood. Now, it might come a bit surprising, but think it through, guys. If his invisibility would be guaranteed like 100% all hits miss like Ghost does. So that means you would safely be able to get in your openings. The fact that he's a Mystic champion could feed him power with Mystic Dispersion. The reliable staggers is already an extremely valuable tool and utilized in a lot of tough situations like the champion boss. Now, if you make his invisibility guaranteed, if you maybe increase his damage a bit, if you increase his power burn or power steal or whatever he does while he is on cooldown from invisibility to kind of amp up his power control abilities, if you increase his heal, which is there, which is kind of nice, but it's not really the type of heal that can sustain yourself. If you increase these attributes, just picture perfect Mystic champion with phasing, with power control, with buff control, with fate seal, with regeneration, with everything going for him. This is another champion that it might not be so obvious initially because his abilities seemed fairly cool when they came out, but since we have seen this invisibility mechanic pretty much almost exclusively be 100%, like we have Invisible Woman who can phase 100%, we have Ghost, so on and so forth, and Hood has some dial-up modem 1990 ability that only gives him 45 chance to be invisible, so he's slightly visible in that Hood, and but somehow he becomes twice as more invisible if you happen to throw something at him. So it, first of all, it doesn't really make that much sense. If you're invisible, you're invisible. If you're not, you're not. But hey, second of all, yeah, if they could just bring him in line with the modern champs, amp up his abilities a bit, like yeah, give him a bit more damage, give him a bit more power steal, give him a bit more health steal or regen or whatever it is, make his invisibility work 100%, and he would be an absolute Mystic powerhouse that everybody loves. Now he is more of a cult champion that has his uses, he has some following, but let's face it, typically if you see him used in endgame content, it's only as a synergy piece or Hood ornament for Ghostmobile. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's one of those champions that I'd really like to see a bit touched up on at some point in future. And the number one champion, the biggest champion with wasted potential, but pretty much all the attributes to be fantastic. And that quite simply is Cable. It might seem a bit obscene there at first, but think this idea through. If his power gain would trigger guaranteed when you push yourself past the bar of power the first time, and then every consecutive time you would kind of like have either slightly lower chance or still some set high chance to do that. Basically, if you'd continuously be able to gain power while using a Cable, that would also continuously trigger these regens and the next power gain, and you would be able to kind of like spam your special attacks. And let's not forget, Cable actually has already a really good special attack on his level 2, which lets him place Concussion Opponent, reduce opponent's ability accuracy for 90% for 11 seconds, and there's also this Incinerate, and it would be so perfect. It would be a mutant that can spam special attacks, concuss the opponent, reduce their ability accuracy by 90%, and just keep regening and spamming the special attacks. So if you would like slightly tweak his power gain, make it a lot more efficient, make it trigger more often, you can leave the regen as is, because otherwise it might be just too OP. But yeah, if that power gain would just kind of trigger, and then he could be able to go like a freight train. Imagine if you have one power gain, you get to the next power bar quicker. You get to the next power bar, you get the second power gain, and then you keep kind of going quicker. And if you play aggressive, you basically just kind of keep shooting special attacks. That would be such a fun, great god tier champion ability. Not to mention that Cable also got absolutely destroyed by his low crit rating. His damage is extremely lackluster. Additionally, he has that True Strike on special 3, if you could also give him like a true strike on level 1, and then you can kind of switch in between a champion who has access to either concussion or true strike based on which level 1 or level 2 you want to use more often. It would be fantastic. It would be a great champion. Increase his damage, increase his power gain amount, increase his ability triggers, and he would be such a wrecking ball champion that puts a smile on my face just thinking about it. And it would be especially enjoyable seeing the number of synergies that Cable is kind of present. And unfortunately, he just sucks so much right now. When we initially read about Cable, he seemed so cool, but he completely got shattered by Kabam's numbers. And I do believe that these are 5 perfect examples of champions who could have been so much more should Kabam been a bit more generous with their numbers, with their ability triggers, with their attack or crit ratings, with their percentages, so on and so forth. And yeah, so these are my 5 picks: Ebony Maw, Invisible Woman, Punisher 2099, Hood, and Cable. Now, who do you think is a god tier champion butchered by Kabam's nerf department? Because we all know they go through some sort of release before actually being handed out to the public. They go through some sort of editing process, final touches or what have you. But yeah, I think these 5 champions would be so fantastic should somebody tinker with their numbers. But yeah, guys, so do let me know what you guys think.